And I am very excited to be here this afternoon. This is, in fact, my first time speaking to a Polish audience, and I couldn't be more excited, as I'm saying, because I do have Polish roots. My grandfather, and as it turns out, just a few days I learned that also my grandmother from my mother's side, both of her parents are of Polish descent. My grandfather was half Polish, half Scottish, and my grandmother 100% Polish. So I'm almost embarrassed that I do not speak your language, but I also have to say I never met my grandparents, so I never got a chance. And I visited Poland, and it's been a really, really great experience. I was catapulted into the subject of out-of-body experiences through a book that I read in 1991 in November. And it was a book written by Robert Allen Monroe, the founder of the Monroe Institute in Virginia, USA. But it wasn't until about 9 years later that I actually had my first experience. To me, the book was fascinating, but it was almost like reading science fiction. It was hard to believe that someone was able to travel without their physical body, and the things he got to experience and to see were so fantastic that my mind and my brain weren't able to really hold that and process that accordingly. So I put the book away, and 9 years later, I was already living in Los Angeles, California. Even though I was born in Germany, I immigrated to the United States about 32 years ago. I was living in California and working as a TV journalist. And I was asked by a TV network in Germany to produce a short feature about the Monroe Institute. And that's how I remembered. And one thing led to another, and all of a sudden I found myself there and eventually became one of their outreach trainers, which means I'm not working at the Institute itself. I'm working in different places all over the world. Most of my workshops, my live workshops, are in the German-speaking region of Europe, as well as in Canada and also in the United States. So I do travel a lot, and I have 24 years of experience in this field, and I've been a consciousness explorer for a quarter century, really. My aim with my work is that I would like to take people to a place where they realize that they are more than their physical bodies, and not just to believe that they're more than their physical bodies. For me, it's important to lead them to a point where they experience that they are multidimensional beings and not just physical flesh. Because it's a whole different story when you begin to have experiences that prove to you that the physical part that we all share in this reality system is just one part of our greater self, of our multidimensional self. And there are so many other aspects that we can experience and explore, and it's highly fascinating. And through this work, I've come into contact with thousands of people, and I believe that if every person on this planet would have at least one out-of-body experience in their life, this planet would be very, very different. To be able to perceive from a different perspective than through the physical eyes and through the physical ears and the nose allows us to gain a different perspective, to gain knowledge that maybe we haven't had before. And that changes the nature of our personality, that changes the way we look at this reality of this physical plane. It changed, for me, I should say, it made a huge impact on my life. After 1 week at the Monroe Institute back in the year 2000, I wasn't able to return to my job anymore. I knew that I had to do something else and to make a contribution that would allow other people to have similar experiences. And, you know, with my workshop in Poland, I am thrilled. I'm beyond thrilled to be able to present my work to your country. So thank you for having me, and thank you for taking time on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. Your voice is off. We can't.
Sorry, we are very excited that you are here and join the other persons. So I try to manage everything, and I always start meetings like our by asking basic questions because all through our community is very immersed in spiritual thema, but I never know if there isn't someone among us who is just starting out. I don't want them to feel excluded. I don't want them to know the answer, the question, they may be afraid to ask. Therefore, let us start with that. What out of body experience is? Yes, but before your answer, I request to the participant if that Oliver will be talking about will be familiar to you. You have a similar experience, please write in the chat, okay? And we will talk about it. So back to the question, what means for you, what it means out of body experience?
The subject of out-of-body experiences is very complex, and there is no simple answer to it. But to try to make it short is, during an out-of-body experience, you perceive the world from a different vantage point than your physical body. You might still sometimes feel your physical body, even during an out-of-body experience, and that's not really an issue. But you basically allow yourself to refocus your consciousness to a different place. A lot of people call out-of-body experiences astral projections. And that is in part true, although I'm not too happy with this word because it doesn't really sum up the whole experience. The word astral means to the stars. I'm not necessarily limiting my experiences to travel among the stars, but I do like the word projection because that's essentially what is happening. Consciousness is projecting away from the physical body, and as an experiencer, you take on that different perspective, and you might, you know, some people have an experience where they might even be able to see their physical body, although that should never be the goal, because to me, that would be a waste of time. If you want to see your physical body, you can step in front of a mirror and you don't have to take your time and your effort to practice. We have other easier means to do that. But an out-of-body experience happens also multidimensional. That means you're going to different dimensions with your awareness focused or anchored for a certain amount of time within a different reality system. And that it can be a very, very fascinating and enriching place to look at the world.
Mm-hmm. So let's say I'm a skeptic. I believe in science. I stand firmly on the ground. It is difficult for people like me to learn this method.
It's not so much about learning. It's more about experiencing. You know, you're not going to a school per se. I am offering a room that I'm holding with my energy to allow you to have certain experiences. You will listen, you know, to, of course, to what I have to say and have to share, so things will become clear to you. But at the end of the day, it is your experience, your personal experience that matters. And we're going to the large playground of consciousness in this workshop. And it is a place that allows for everything. You know, it's more about being playful, of being open, of not having a strict agenda and a strict goal, but to allow ourselves to be like kids on a large playground, except that this playground is the greater consciousness. So learning is not the right word really here. It's more about practicing. And everybody has their own rhythm. You know, there's people that come into this world and they have a really easy access, and others don't. I was one of these people that had to train a little harder than a lot of the other peoples I encountered along my path. And I'm very grateful today because all my mishaps, all those practice sessions where I did not achieve what my initial goal was, have taught me so much about my physical self as well as my multidimensional self. And as a result, I have lost a lot of the fears that I was carrying in my baggage, especially the fear of dying, the fear of death. You know, that is one of the key factors why I'm so passionate about my work. Once a person realizes and experiences their multidimensional self, the fear of dying will diminish. And that is the greatest gift that you can give yourselves. And yeah, I hope that answers the questions.
Yes, thank you very much. But now we have a first question of Jan now. John, does it mean that during out-of-body experience, my soul is outside my body? And if so, can my body be overtaken by another presence?
Oh, this is a very good question. I love that. Because we live with the assumption that our body is inhabited by a soul. In my 24 years of out-of-body travel, I have come to realize that it's not the body that has a soul. The soul is not inside the body. It's the soul that has a body. You know, the soul has created, has manifested this physical body, and it's a mere avatar, if you want, much like a video game. You know, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but the physicist Thomas Kempel, and now we're going into science, who's also an avid explorer of consciousness and who has had thousands and thousands of out-of-body experiences, has come up with a big theory of everything. And within this theory, he sees that consciousness, or what we describe as the soul, is outside the body. It's ever existing. It's always there. It doesn't have a limited lifespan, but it creates not only the physical body, but also through it, the physical environment. So it's not so much about leaving the body. It's more about remembering that we are part of a larger soul, that this part of my soul that has incarnated here is just one aspect of maybe many aspects that could be incarnated, you know, at parallel or in different places at the same time. And I find that extremely fascinating because we can also learn to access these other parts that might have incarnated somewhere else, as well as to remember where we come from, what our true home is, the soul. And the soul is never physical. So the question, can another being or an entity inhabit my body? No, I've never, ever had that case in all these years that I've been practicing out-of-body travel, not a single time. I don't think it's possible because our higher self is on a mission. And when I speak about the higher self, I mean that greater soul aspect that is our true home. It will always be there for us, much like all the aspects of our higher soul that we call spirit guides or angel helpers, whatever the vocabulary is we would like to use. And that might be different for each and every one of us. So, yeah, we don't have to worry about someone taking over.
Okay, the next questions. Wonderful that you ask. Sometimes I dream about I'm flying above the ground, hovering like a bird in the sky. However, it's a dream. It is a chance that our soul leaves our body when I sleep.
Yes and no. As I explained, the soul isn't leaving the body. It's just refocusing its energy to a different point, and to be able to take on a different perspective or to have a different experience. When you dream of flying, it doesn't necessarily have to be an out-of-body experience. It could also be a lucid dream. When you're aware of what you're dreaming and you find that you're in control, there are certain things on the checklist that you can mark. My personal checklist includes a look at my hands while I'm dreaming. Do I actually have hands? If so, how many fingers do I have? In a lucid dream, I find that I do have fingers, I do have hands, but I never have 5 fingers. They're different shapes and they're funny looking, almost like a cartoon. In an out-of-body experience, I never have fingers or hands because it's consciousness that is projecting, not the mirror of my physical self. There's very rare moments, very, very rare moments where it happens that I feel physical during an out-of-body experience. But in general, I find myself more like a floating light, like a glimpse of consciousness, like a blip that is projecting and that is experiencing, that is exploring. But when I look down on myself, you know, I have no hands, no feet, no body, because it's consciousness and not a manifestation, much like it would be in a lucid dream.
The next question. My experience is dreams about flying. Consciously, unfortunately, no. During the dream, anxiety was created while pulling out of the body. This may have blocked my action. I often think about consciously returning to this place. How can I overcome this?
Well, here again, I think I answered that already by explaining the difference between a lucid dream and an out-of-body experience. First of all, it has to be determined what nature the experience is. When it's a flying experience, it could be both. It is usually not common to be able to re-enter an out-of-body experience once you've left it, you know, once it's over. With a lucid dream, it's different because we tend to go through different stages, even within the REM phase, REM phase of the dream, where the lucidity happens. And when we go too close to the waking state, then we might be able to drop back into the dream. With an out-of-body experience, not so much. You know, that's also one of the factors that we can use to determine what nature the experience is.
Okay, next question. Does diet matter for experiencing out of body?
I didn't understand this.
Diet. What we eat.
Oh, diet. Sorry, yeah.
Diet. Sorry.
It might matter, not for everyone, but for a lot of people it does. I have found for myself that sugar, for example, if you consume sugar, it might blur your awareness, you know, the way you perceive things. And I was taught by Thomas Campbell, I've mentioned him before, the physicist, who mainly lives by eating or drinking green smoothies, you know, for the most part. I wouldn't go that far, but I do have a vegetarian diet, and I do not eat sugar. I haven't had any sugar in 13 years now. In February, it was 13 years. But I also have to say that a lot of the carbohydrates we eat, like pasta, rice, potatoes, you know, they will transform into sugar as well. I do watch my diet. You know, I'm not overly dogmatic with it because it's a very personal choice and it's a personal experience. But I've met a lot of people that have followed my advice and they've cut sugar out as much as they could. And found that their perception, the way they perceive during an out-of-body experience and even during dreams gets much, much better. And it's one thing that I also like to address towards the end of each workshop, you know, where I give very specific tips on how you can enhance your physical self and raise your vibration in order to have better out-of-body experiences. So there is definitely a connection. I want to say maybe for 8 out of 10 people, it might be beneficial to change the diet. And there might be 2 out of 10 people that can eat and drink no matter what, and they still have great experiences. I unfortunately had to take a look at my diet.
Okay. There is no question, but a statement. One person write, I experienced clinical death 31 years ago and over 20 years of biolocation, and I thought I had no fear of death, but I catch myself fearing of my daughter. After that, I didn't have such experience anymore.
Yes, and that's one thing we spend a lot of time with in my workshops, that we talk about the doubter, you know, the inner doubter. It's part of our ego. The ego's job is to keep us centered here, you know, to allow for the physical experience. The ego will never just go away and let ourselves go and fly, you know, because there is a reason why the ego exists. And I don't think that it's possible to navigate the physical reality without an ego. Having said that, there is ways, you know, that we can practice to let our ego become smaller and not get into the way that much. I always, I have these moments, you know, still. I have just been through a very traumatic experience. My father took his own life on February 9th and left behind our mother, who is suffering from severe Alzheimer's. And it's a very, very challenging time. Having lost my father to suicide and watching my mother decay now raises certain fears. You know, what if it happens to me? And what if my dad is not able to go to where he's supposed to go after he's dead? Luckily, I've been able to make contact in an out-of-body experience. That's one thing that you know, we can achieve and can experience. We can have, we can continue our relationships with our loved ones in the other world, in the great beyond. But also, the practice allows me to take a look at my mother's soul aspect and not just the personality that has changed, that raises those fears. So I want to say to this statement, fear is a natural, you know, something natural. It's not uncommon, but we do have ways to work with these fears. I usually use an exercise that's also in this workshop that is very, very helpful to get rid of fears that we subconsciously carry with us and consciously as well. But we need some of these fears from time to time in order to remain in our mission here in life, because there's a reason why we have incarnated. And let's not forget that. You know, out of body travel is an extension of our physical self experience, but it won't replace it. And if you've had a near-death experience, you know in your heart, you know, if you've experienced clinical death, you've had an out-of-body experience, probably a conscious one. And if you allow yourself to go back to that memory, to the beautiful moments that that experience has created, you might find that the fear will, you know, get smaller and smaller. But there's also ways to really take the fears and throw them out.
Yolanta wrote a wonderful comment. Oliver, you're like my brother. You're like a brother to me because your and my experience is almost similar. Of course, we had a different path. However, my story started more than 20 years ago. So I decided to check this. Doesn't matter what I wanna know about it, and listen to you means a lot to me. I believe thanks to you, so many people can find the real pathway and destiny.
Oh, thank you so much, Yolanda. I appreciate that.
Okay, next. Okay, comment. Oh, it's interesting. Has Oliver been in the other space-time? Has he seen other beings?
Yes, I've over my 24 years of exploration, I've seen so many other worlds and other beings, and there's always, you know, there's never enough time to explore every reality that is out there. I've come to realize that our physical reality is just like a grain of sand on the big beach of possibilities. The greater consciousness has created a lot of different spaces and playgrounds for, you know, souls to incarnate. Well, it's not the right word, because incarnate means going into flesh. There's other realities where you do not necessarily have a physical body, but different means of existences. Yes, my field of resonance, interestingly, has been what we call the great beyond, where people go when they die, and not necessarily all the other realities that are out there. I've had glimpses of those, you know, I've had my share of experiences, but I feel always drawn back to what is next, what is right beyond our physical life. And I've been in, you know, meeting so many deceased people. But to me, they're not deceased, they've just changed. Just because they're not physical anymore doesn't mean they're not the same anymore. They just have a different perspective. And I find it highly fascinating to communicate myself without needing a medium in and out of body experience with those who have passed on before us. And also the exploration of the great beyond is something that I find highly valuable, because look, you know, when we leave our house in the morning to go to work, we know where we go. If we leave to go on a journey, we have a GPS system in our car that we use, or at least we have a map, you know, that we can use to find our way. We always have a certain destination in mind when we leave the house. But here we are walking through life. You know, we're busy manifesting everything in this life, which is great and important. But it's also important to ask, where are we going to go once this is done? And how are we going to, how do we want to live once this is done? Just because our physical body ceases to exist at some point doesn't mean that the whole package that we are, you know, that has incarnated here will cease to exist. It will live on, and it will still, you know, have experiences and learn and develop. we're not enlightened beings once we leave this world. We're the same people right after we die, except that we don't have a physical body. And it's really important to look at that and to see how would I like to prepare for this path that inevitably every single one of us will take eventually. Because that's the one thing we have in common, our physical death, and there's no way around it. And it deserves to be prepared. It deserves to be looked at, and it deserves to be included in our greater existence and experience.
Mm-hmm. Joanna asks once again, thank you, Oliver, for answering my question. It is easy to come back to our body after out-of-body experience, and if yes, how can I do it?
Well, the physical body, and I'm saying unfortunately, has a mechanism, that calls us back. It is much harder to stay outside than it is to come back. Most out-of-body experiences are rather short in their linear duration, especially at the beginning, which is a good thing because we need to get used to the experience before we, are able to have these prolonged experiences. But once the physical body is ready to operate again, it can't lie there forever. The bladder is usually the last thing that calls you back, if nothing else. It'll be your bladder that'll tell you it's time to go back. We need to go to the bathroom. That's it. Experience is over, and then you will snap back. But as I said, the connection is not lost. A lot of people that experience out-of-body travel also perceive what we call the silver cord. It's an energy line that is connecting the astral body or that part of consciousness that travels with the physical body that is not traveling with the astral body at that moment. Not everybody will perceive the silver cord. I haven't, but I know hundreds of people who have. So I'm a firm believer that it exists and that it keeps this connection stable. But at the end, yeah, the physical body will call you back.
So Andrea asks, I have vivid dreams. I recognize when they just everyday dreams, but when I go somewhere while dreaming. But my question is, it is possible that in my vivid dreams, I visit other realms where I live a different life of me, myself.
I wouldn't call these type of experiences dreams. We need to differentiate between dreams and actual astral projection. And we've talked about that earlier on how to do that. But the answer to the later part of your question is yes. It's a firm yes. We do have other aspects of ourselves that live other lives in other realms or even in the physical realms, and we're able to connect to those and experience that other life for a little bit at least. That is possible. But again, first it has to be determined, is it a dream or is it an out-of-body experience? Look, a lucid dream, which is a very vivid dream where you are fully conscious that you are dreaming and you're able to control your dream. It will always happen in an environment that you have created unconsciously. And this environment has limits to it. It's one way also to verify, am I in a dream or am I in a so-called consensus reality? A reality that wasn't created by myself or by my system personally, but by many other souls that have created it. I'm taking, the great beyond, for example, where we go after we die, hopefully go where we die, when we die. That is a reality, a consensus reality, created by millions and millions and billions of soul aspects who've come there, who've traveled through there, who've manifested. And it's very stable. It's a very stable environment. The environment in a lucid dream is very shapeable. Just with your pure thought, you can change everything in a lucid dream. Not so much in a consensus reality where there are certain laws, much like we have our laws of physics here. We are restrained by time, by linear time and space. That is those are the laws of our reality system. Once you leave this reality system, you might have other laws that apply. But in general, there are consensus realities that have been created by many, many, many other soul aspects.
Thank you very much. Zuza asked, why we dare talk about dreams? Isn't more a matter of confusions?
Can you ask that again?
Why we talk about dreaming?
Yeah, I see the point, but I think it's important to make clear that there is a difference between actual dreams and out-of-body experiences, and that needs to be learned or realized. And not everybody knows the difference.
Next question. When transition doesn't happen from dreams, conscious existence?
I don't understand that question.
I not too. Next, I'm so sorry for your loss. Maybe I ask how long is recommended for the out-body experience to last for?
Thank you, first of all. But see, there is no rule how long an experience should last. You're not setting an alarm clock. Your body-mind system will tell you, and also your spirit guides and your higher self are involved. They will tell you how long this experience is lasting before they catapult you back to the physical plane. And as I said before, when you start out practicing, these experiences usually are only several seconds long to begin with, just so that your system can adjust. It's very overwhelming for some people to step into the out-of-body state, and because it also has to be navigated. It's one thing to step into the experience, but then it's a different thing to be able to navigate it, because there's different laws. As I explained, we're not constrained by the laws of physics necessarily, and our mere intention might shoot us to the moon and way beyond that. So it's actually a good thing that the experiences start out slow for most people, and then we train to extend the time and the experience. But there's no should. It's our spirit guides, our helpers, and also our higher self that sort of watches over that process. It's not the ego. It's not. If it's ego driven, it's not going to work.
I would like once again apologize because of my voice. And next question, Julie. Hi, Oliver. Last week, Friday, I experienced a spontaneous healing during the binaural frequency meditation included in the online masterclass of yours.
Yes.
I was very sick since October last year with a mysterious illness that mostly caused intense abdominal pains, dizziness, feelings like dying, etc., without the doctors finding a real cause. After 5 months doing the binaural meditation from your masterclass, I was free of PET. So yesterday, I was curious to try the meditation again to see if I can heal another issue, and then consider booking your course. But unfortunately, the second time doing the meditation brought the pain come back. Did I do something wrong? Now I'm sure anymore if this course is for me. I want to be free of pain again. I would like to mention I don't have fear of death, but sometimes attracts me to doing this course while also having extreme fear of doubts. Thank you very, very much for your response.
Well, thank you for your question. So in this course, we work with an audio technology, which I call the wisdom wave technology, which allows our brain to go into a whole brain working state. Both hemispheres of the brain will be stimulated through frequencies. These frequencies create binaural beats in our brain, and these beats sort of wander around and stimulate both hemispheres of the brain. Usually, 99.9% of people have a very active left hemisphere because they need to function in life. You know, they need to follow a certain schedule. They need to have time on their mind. You know, everything is tacted. There's very few people who can allow themselves to be right-brained. A lot of those people are musicians that play professional music and for a good part of the day can just dive into their creativity. Artists as well, professional artists will find that they have a much better working right brain, but they're not necessarily practical people. So the audio technology allows our brain to, open up to its greater potential, which means we are going into an expanded state of awareness where we perceive not only through our physical senses, but also through our non-physical senses. At the same time, we experience a state of calmness where the body goes into a deep state of relaxation, sometimes even a physical sleep, while the brain is highly active and projects into other realms. Healing I've had a lot of instances where people have received healing through this work, but the sound frequencies are not going to heal by themselves. There's a lot of other factors that come into play as our intention, maybe our connection to our spirit guides and our ability to perceive the actual reason of the symptom. That's always my aim, to look, why am I experiencing a certain dis-ease or disease? What message is in it? What am I supposed to learn from that? And then I will ask, how can I heal from it? It can be spontaneous, but I've also, as you described, had people that all of a sudden developed symptoms because something needs to be looked at. There's some important message somewhere that needs to be heard. And until you've heard that message, you will not experience permanent relief from any symptoms. But as I said, we are opening up to an expanded state of awareness, and that allows us to be much more aware and to receive a different data flow than we would normally do if we just have one hemisphere of the brain working and not both in sync.
Oliver, do you happen to meet angels?
I believe that we will meet those beings that we are in resonance with. And yes, I have met angels. I was disappointed to see that they didn't have wings and they weren't wearing white gowns. But yes, they introduced themselves as angels, and they have a certain function or job that they're doing. And that's a little bit different from what I would call the spirit helpers or spirit guides. The angel energy is a very specific energy that I look at more in a broader sense, because an angel is not there for you personally only, but always for a lot of soul aspects, whilst your spirit helpers or spirit guides focused on your assistance. That's their only job they have. They don't share you. They're there for you, and you can access that support when needed. Yeah, so I've met both spirit guides and angels.
Mhm. Next question. Do my beliefs on values determine what I'm going to see during out-of-body experience?
Oh, that's a brilliant question. Yes, our belief system is definitely determining the quality of the experience and also what we encounter. But then, once we realize that it's based on our belief system and we open up to the greater knowledge behind it, you know, things can unveil. And I want to give an example. Once we let's start this way. Every near-death experience is an out-of-body experience also. Not every out-of-body experience is a near-death experience. But people that have reported from their near-death experience always end up in an environment that resonates with where they're at in life, you know, and is shaped by their beliefs. A Christian from let's say, Germany will be greeted much differently than a Muslim from, let's say, Saudi Arabia, because it's a whole different cultural aspect. And there is a certain belief that you know, different cultures carry and different religions carry, and that will always be accommodated in an out-of-body experience and also eventually at death, at the point of death. But then when we're ready, the true nature of the environment will reveal itself. It is just to, you know, make us comfortable or show us, it could be the other way around, that we're wrong with what we have believed in life. So I try to not believe too much, but I urge people to go out there and make their own experiences, to find their own truth and not rely on what religious leaders or other people tell them. Robert Monroe, my greatest teacher, always said, don't believe a word that I'm saying. Go out and explore for yourself. Only then will you find the truth. And I totally sign that, you know, that's 100% true.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Andrzej wrote a commentary. In 2006, I was at a workshop, Astral Travel, with a Polish biotherapist, but I didn't not manage to fly. But it happened once on my bed to come out of my body and to rise up. But I got scared and very rapidly returned to my body. Since then, I haven't courage to make this once again until now.
Yes, and I applaud you for trying again. You know, I am very familiar with the fear that arises once you are in the out-of-body state and the environment is different than what you expected it to be or what you're used to. And that will happen. But we talk in my workshop, we talk a lot about trust and resources that we have and the fear management. I say, you know, it is important, it is extremely important to be well prepared. And that's what I teach in this workshop. I don't want to send people out there and then end up being scared and not try again. So we will focus on the preparational process for a good while in this workshop before we actually go into attempting the experience, because it's a solid foundation is the key. And I am very, very grateful that I come from a school such as the Monroe Institute, which is the world leading institute on consciousness exploration. And Robert Monroe was very, very avid on making sure people were well prepared. And that's also my aim, to give you the right tools to make sure that you're comfortable and that you know how to raise your energy to accommodate the experience, and eventually also how to navigate. Then there comes a point where you'll hopefully, you know, practice on your own once this course is over. The beauty with this course is it'll stay with you for your lifetime. You can always go back, you know, and listen at different chapters and redo these exercises as you find appropriate. And you'll always find that there's, you know, something you feel more drawn to in an exercise than maybe in a different exercise. And it's all a process of practicing and playing and experiencing with a focus on playing. This should be fun. You know, this should be something we do with joy. This is our natural state of being joyful, in love with what we do, and not worried and not in fear. We're love manifested, you know, and expressed through joy. And that's what our energy should be once we attempt this remembering process. And that's really what it is, you know, more than learning, we're going back to remember who we truly are.
Oh, thank you. Next question. Is out-of-body experience equal shamanic journey?
Not necessarily, you know, it depends. Every shamanic journey can potentially turn into an out-of-body experience. We use similar techniques to some degree, you know, because all these methods are somewhere intertwined and connected. I never felt drawn to, you know, do a proper shamanic training because I was more the pragmatic type. You know, I felt comfortable with Robert Monroe and Thomas Campbell because they're scientists, you know, and I'm a guy and I like the technical stuff with the binaural beats. It really helped me stay grounded at the same time because it is really based on science, you know. But I've come to realize that there are a lot of different practices out there that tend to have similar results, and the shamanic journey can always be an out-of-body experience. There's always that potential, and the other way around, of course.
Thank you very much. Next question: what safety rules must be followed to avoid surprises?
Well, we do want surprises. You know, that's what it is about. You need to be open, and you want to be open to these new experiences, and they will definitely include surprises. But you know, with the right preparation, you'll hopefully get to enjoy these surprises, no matter what they are. The way I work, you know, I can never guarantee that there won't be moments where you know, that are surprising to a degree that it's not necessarily all pleasant, because there's aspects of ourselves. If we haven't done our shadow work, you know, we might encounter aspects of ourselves that need to be looked at, and they might not be that pretty. But that's all part of our development, of our realization, self-realizations. And I always welcome these type of surprises because they give me a chance to clean up and also to learn about myself.
Right, the next question. Will each person seeing the energy perspective in the same way?
No, each person will experience differently. Look, it's much like the physical plane. If you take your friend and you go, let's say, to Greece, to the island of Santorini, for example, you will get out of the airplane, you will drive to your hotel, and you will open the door to the balcony, and both of you will look at the same scenario. And one will go, oh, look over there's the bar right next to the pool. And the other person will say, the beach is so beautiful. I can see dolphins in the far distance and the color blue. So we're both in the same spot, but we experience the world differently. And that's our nature. You know, it's our nature because we're co-creators of our own reality. Even if I'm with my closest friend and we look at we have the same view, you know, we will always have a different experience. Unless we seek the similarities out, we'll always have or be in our own little world, no matter where we are, in the physical world or in the non-physical.
Thank you very much. The next one.
But I would like to add something, sorry, because I saw a question popping up saying, is it possible to do joint explorations or joint out-of-body experiences? I have traveled with a friend for a number of years where we teamed up, the two of us, to be able to get more verifiable data during our experiences. And we found that it didn't matter if we went on our journey even the same day. We were in different physical places. My friend was in Colorado in the United States, and I was mainly in Los Angeles, but sometimes in Europe. It did not matter where we would start. And it turned out that it didn't matter what day we did the same exercise. I would go on Monday and she would go on Wednesday, and we would talk on Friday and compare our results. And we were still able to perceive one another within the exercise. And that is highly fascinating. It took a little while for us to fully come into resonance. So the first, I want to say maybe 10 or 20 explorations we did were very shaky, where there were only glimpses of, oh, my friend Mara is seeing this, but I'm seeing something different. But the longer we worked together, the more we became a team and were in sync. And it's a very, very fascinating process because we experienced a lot of the similar scenarios while we were out there.
Okay, thank you. If it's possible to have a joint out-of-body experience.
Yeah, that's what I just explained.
With my partner in the same time, we will perceive the same take in the same time.
Yes and no. You know, it really depends on how much you are in sync. And it's probably a little difficult when you first start out. But if you keep exploring together, you will, you know, much like anything you do as a team, you become better at it with practice.
Do you require any special headphones to your sound during the session?
Oh, that's a very good question. I like to use headphones with cords, and they can be cheap headphones. In my live workshops, I always use a model that is probably like 12 or 13 euros to buy. The only thing that is important is that it's comfortable, that it's not too heavy, because it will distract you from the experience. There's a lot of very heavy headphones, you know, that will put pressure on your head. The ones I use are very lightweight. You know, they're cheap and lightweight. And I always attach a second cable, an extension with a volume control. And I want to tell you why. Because a lot of times we listen to these exercises, you know, they're on the computer, or even if they're on your smartphone, you'll be able to download them and to play them from any device that you choose. But attaching an extension cord with a volume control, and they're very cheap to get, you always have the option to hold the volume control in your hand and to regulate the volume. There might be times where you feel, oh, this is going wonderful, but the exercise is almost over. And then with the volume control in your hand, it only takes a little movement of your finger to shut the sound off. And the voice won't bring you back right then and there to your physical self. And sometimes when you go into a deep state of relaxation, your sense of hearing becomes amplified and you just feel uncomfortable with the sound being too loud. So you can adjust it with just the tip of your thumb. It's very practical. So short answer, you don't need specific expensive headphones. There need to be stereo headphones, but all the headphones we have are stereo these days. I don't like to use these things because they tend to move around, and also because Bluetooth is not 100% stable. If you go into a deep, deep, deep meditation or trance state, is what we do actually. We go into deep state of trance, and the Bluetooth connection stops for just a a split second, you will have this moment where you wake up. It will bring you back, and it's very uncomfortable. So I've tried different scenarios, and I've come back to using cables because it's the only safe and stable way, to experience a solid flow of sound.
Good. Just a minute. The next question. I really like the opportunity to see myself from the different perspective. Can you say more about how this difference in perception has affected you?
I need to make sure we're talking about the same thing. As I said earlier, I do not like to waste my time at looking at my physical body. I find it extremely difficult. Not everybody will, but I find it difficult because there's a certain magnetism between, the incarnated soul aspect and the physical body. And if my aim is to look at my physical body, there will always be the focus on the physical body. And as long as I'm focusing on my physical body, I'm not going out of body. So that's a tricky thing. Some people, or I want to say those people who experience a spontaneous out-of-body experience or a classic near-death experience, will be able to look at their bodies because this experience was initiated spontaneously. There was no intention to have that experience. It just happened. So it's a different agenda. But if we keep focusing on the physical body, we're most likely not going to be able to hold that energy and stability. But if you are talking about looking at your multidimensional self, looking at all the different aspects that you are, that can be highly fascinating. And as I said, my experience was that after 6 days at the Monroe Institute, I wasn't able to return to what I was doing because I realized that it was not my mission in life, to be a TV journalist and to report about Hollywood stars, which I did at the time. I had to go on a deep search, and it took me 9 years to find my spot. And I'm very happy I took that time and I tried myself out and I got to know my different inner dimensions, I want to say, through out-of-body travel. And now I'm here, I know I'm doing the right thing, and I have been doing this for 14 years, almost now full time, and it's been a dream because once you learn about yourself and you learn what your mission in life is, what you choose to incarnate to do, you'll be at peace, and it'll be easy because there's no struggle anymore. It's just very natural and easy.
Yes, you have so many questions, but we have to slowly end our meeting. Yes, for people, for you, we have a course, and when you like, Oliver, to say a few words for the end of our meeting, to resume to say.
Yes, again, I want to stretch the importance of taking the time and making the effort to getting to know your multidimensional self, to get in touch with all the different aspects and not just with that one aspect that is the physical part, is so important, not only for us personally, but also for all the people we affect through our being. Every single one of us has a responsibility, especially in the world that we live in today, that is unfortunately, at a tipping point. And by learning about, or by experiencing the multidimensional self and learning about different environments and different perspectives on what this life is actually about, we're able to affect other beings, even without talking to them, without telling them about it. As we change, our energy will change and our vibration will change, and that alone will affect everybody around us. And it's like waves, you know, that we send out and that will hopefully reach a lot of people. I've seen it happening, and my aim in life is to keep doing this in order to make sure that we can all have a safe physical life. So I would be privileged to, you know, get to know you a little better, to support you in this on this journey. If you are interested in exploring consciousness and the out-of-body state, I'd be honored to, you know, be your guide for the non-physical in it.
Thank you very much. You says you are very grateful. Oliver, thank you very much. Thank you for your answer. Kochani, ja przejdę teraz na język polski. Ja tu wkleję link do naszego kursu, ponieważ pytań jest bardzo wiele, a czasu już nie mamy. I jeżeli zdecydujecie się dołączyć do kursu, tam takich spotkań z Oliverem będzie kilka, więc zachęcamy do dołączenia. Tym bardziej, że macie te 14 dni, żeby zrezygnować i zwrócić pieniądze bez żadnych pytań. Więc serdecznie zapraszamy. Jeżeli macie ochotę przejść w inny wymiar, nauczyć się, Oliver jest fantastycznym, jak widzicie, przewodnikiem, który może nas wziąć za rękę i poprowadzić gdzieś wyżej, gdzieś dalej, w inne przestrzenie. Jesteśmy naprawdę bardzo dumni, bardzo szczęśliwi, że zgodził się na to, żebyśmy mogli też w przestrzeni Younity Polska promować jego kurs. Jest naprawdę niesamowity, a miałam przyjemność też brać w nim udział, więc wiele rzeczy, o których pisaliście tutaj, się też z moimi doświadczeniami pokrywa. Raz jeszcze przepraszam Was za mój głos i za niewyraźność, ale mam nadzieję, że wszystko zrozumieliście i to pozwoli Wam podjąć decyzję. Zapraszam Was serdecznie do tego kursu, naprawdę będzie fantastycznie. Także gdybyście mieli jeszcze pytanie, dajcie znać. Pozdrawiam bardzo, bardzo serdecznie.
Pozdrawiam też i